China appears to be target number one for the Trump administration's reciprocal tariffs, which include a 145% total duty on imports from China. It's a big topic of discussion, with the Trump administration betting that China needs U.S. business more than the U.S. needs their product. Joining us now to go over the latest developments in the Trump trade war is economics professor at YSU, Dr. A.J. Sumell. Thanks for coming in.
Hey, thanks for having me.
We appreciate it. So let's talk about the overarching need that these two countries have here. China is kind of downplaying the Trump administration's tariffs and the risk, the damage to its economy. But the Trump administration says their goal is obviously to bring manufacturing back to the U.S. That's why they want to put these tariffs in. What are we looking at short term? What are we looking at long term if everything continues to play out? Is there a winner in this game?
I honestly, so as far as the second question, as far as is there a winner, I'd say that both the U.S. and China are losers in this game. And it's a matter of which country loses more. That's hard to say directly. China is very dependent on the U.S. We are their number one source of their exports, right? But we are also dependent on China. They're our number three trading partner in terms of imports. And also a big source of our exports, that we import more than $450 billion worth of Chinese goods every year and export close to $300 billion every year. And so this trade war does not play out well for either country in terms of the economic impact. The main impacts to the U.S. in terms of these tariffs are high increase in prices for those imports, obviously 145%. You're going to see more than a doubling of what U.S. customers are accustomed to paying relatively little for. Things like electronics, things like clothing. So we'll see immediate impacts in terms of things like televisions or toaster ovens and sneakers. And so in terms of the short term, that would be the immediate short term. Longer term, it depends on how long these tariffs stay in place as far as that impact.
So most economists agree there's some use for tariffs. It can be helpful, but the Trump administration's approach maybe has been a little bit too erratic. Do you see a workable strategy behind this?
I mean, yeah, the main issue with the current situation is the level of uncertainty. That businesses and customers to some degree like to know what the future is going to hold. And so the uncertainty comes to the point of, one, it's this dramatic increase in tariffs, but then you carve out certain products like tech products. And U.S. businesses in particular, they actually rely a lot on some Chinese imports in terms of even manufacturing. It could damage U.S. manufacturers because they need some of the things that are imported from China. More than 50% actually of Chinese imports are used as inputs in the production of goods that are manufactured here in the U.S. So increasing the cost of those inputs increases the cost to U.S. manufacturers, which obviously doesn't spell well for our manufacturers.
Right. So today, the Chinese government told the country's domestic airlines to stop retrieving or accepting deliveries of Boeing jets and parts.
Right.
What other U.S. sectors could China hit back at and look elsewhere to try and avoid these tariffs?
Yeah, I mean, so yeah, we do export a lot of goods and services actually also to China. Boeing is a major exporter to China. In terms of how they're hitting back, there's a lot of this tit for tat, and China's actually restricted some key inputs that the U.S. needs, in particular rare earth metals, that the U.S. can't just get anywhere else. That's an important input in tech manufacturing. And so in terms of how they're hitting back, they're just taking key goods that the U.S. doesn't have other sources for and restricting those. And then hopefully, in some ways, it won't continue this constant escalation, and both countries will agree to come down in some cases.
So quickly, last question. The Chinese Customs Agency is playing up China's vast market, domestic market, and said that the country will turn domestic certainty into a buffer against global volatility. If these tariffs are ever lifted, Is the trade relationship between these two countries, has it changed forever?
Yeah, I think it definitely has. I mean, just based on, I mean, and this has been something that has been happening over the last really 10 years, since 2016, when tariffs started to be put in place, that both China was looking to other countries that they could potentially produce in, and the U.S. was looking towards other countries as well. And so this is just going to, I think, continue that trend and probably speed up that trend in terms of reducing that trade reliance on each other.
So much anxiety from so many people all around with this tariff situation. We appreciate you lending your expertise, Dr. A.J. Sumell.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.